Have you ever just stopped and wondered, what's the real difference between you and, say, a rock? It sounds like a simple question, right? But it actually gets at one of the biggest challenges in all of science. So today, we're going to crack open the user's guide for the living world to figure out the fundamental rules of being alive and how scientists manage to bring some order to the incredible, beautiful chaos of life on Earth.
So let's start with that big question right there. What really makes a person different from a mountain? I mean, both exist, both change over time, but one is alive and one isn't. To get to the bottom of this, we need to find a set of rules that apply to every single living thing with absolutely no exceptions.
And that brings us right to our first section, the rules of being alive. Now, you probably have some ideas floating around in your head already, like growth or making babies, but as you're about to see, some of the most obvious answers are actually kind of wrong. Okay, let's take growth. It seems like a no-brainer. Living things grow. You grew, plants grow, everything grows. But so do mountains, right? Dust and rock accumulate on their surface and they get bigger. The crucial difference is how they grow. Living things grow from the inside out. Think cells dividing. Non-living things just add layers to the outside. Because of that key difference, growth alone just doesn't cut it as a universal rule for life. All right, so if growth is out, what about reproduction? I mean, it's pretty darn important for a species to continue. But what about just one individual organism? Well, think about it. You've got mules, they're sterile. You have worker bees who never reproduce. You have infertile human couples. All of them are without a doubt alive. So reproduction can't be the definitive, all-inclusive property of life either. So, if it's not growth and it's not reproduction, what is it? Well, biologists have zeroed in on three core, non-negotiable properties that every single living thing has to have. First up, metabolism. That's the sum of all the chemical reactions happening inside that keep it going. Second, cellular organization. Everything alive is made of at least one cell. And third, consciousness. This is just the ability to sense what's going on in the environment and respond to it. If you have these three, you are alive, period. But you know, rules are made to be tested, right? So let's throw a real curveball at that third rule, consciousness. What about a person in a coma? They seem completely unresponsive. According to our rules, are they still alive?
And the answer is yes, absolutely. This is such a great example. Even though their consciousness is way down, it's not zero. Their body is still made of cells. Those cells are running all sorts of metabolic reactions, and there's still a baseline level of responsiveness happening, even if it's all internal. They still exhibit life. This shows us it's about the presence of these properties, not how much of them you have.
Okay, so we've nailed down the rules for what it means to be alive. That's a huge step, but it immediately leads us to the next massive challenge. How in the world do we start to make sense of the absolutely staggering variety of life that follows these rules? Just to put a number on that chaos, scientists have so far identified and given a name to about 1.8 million different species on Earth. Just try to imagine a library with 1.8 million different books, each with its own story. It's completely overwhelming. Biologists desperately needed a system to sort through it all. And that system is called taxonomy. It's the science of bringing order to all this beautiful chaos. Taxonomy gives us the tools for three really crucial things. First, identifying what something is. Second, giving it a formal name, that's called nomenclature. And third, classifying it, which is all about figuring out where it fits in the grand tree of life. Let's start with that first big tool, naming things. To study life on a global scale, scientists had a major problem. A single type of animal or plant could have dozens of different common names depending on where you were in the world. They needed a universal language, something to make sure a scientist in Brazil and a scientist in Japan were talking about the exact same creature. The solution was an elegant system called binomial nomenclature, and we have the brilliant biologist Carolus Linnaeus to thank for it. The idea is so simple, but it was revolutionary. Every single species gets a unique, two-part name. This became the universal language of biology, and it just cut through all the confusion of thousands of different local names. And the best part? There are just 4 simple rules to this language. Let's use a mango as an example. Its scientific name is Mangifera indica. So, Rule 1. It has 2 parts, the genus, Mangifera, and the species, indica. Rule 2. The name is always in Latin, or at least Latinized. Rule 3. You always write it in italics or underline it. And finally, Rule 4. The genus is always capitalized, but the species name is always lowercase. Simple, elegant, and everybody uses it.
So now that everything has a unique name tag, we can get to the final, really cool step: classification. You can think of this as life's grand filing system, a way to organize all 1.8 million of those species based on how they're related to each other.
This right here is the blueprint for that filing system. It's called the taxonomic hierarchy. It's basically a series of nested categories, kind of like Russian dolls. You start with the biggest, most general category, the kingdom, and you get more and more specific as you go down, all the way to species. To really see how it works, let's track a real example all the way through the system.
And what better example to use than, well, us. We have a scientific name just like that mango does, Homo sapiens. So let's find out exactly where we fit in this grand filing cabinet of life.
This whole thing works just like a mailing address. We start in the biggest country, which for us is the kingdom Animalia. We're animals. Then we narrow it down to the state, phylum Chordata, animals with a spinal cord. Then the city, class Mammalia. Then the neighborhood, order Primata. Then the street, family Hominidae, and the house, which is the genus Homo. And finally, we arrive at our specific mailbox, the species Homo sapiens. See, each step down gets more exclusive, grouping us with only our closest and closest relatives.
But here's the really profound part. This system does so much more than just sort things. By organizing all life based on shared characteristics, it actually reveals the deep evolutionary relationships that connect every single living thing. It's not just a filing system, it's a family tree for the entire planet. So we've figured out what life is, and we've built this incredible, elegant system to organize the 1.8 million species we know about. But that leaves us with one final, awe-inspiring thought. The vast majority of life on Earth is still completely unknown to us. This system we've explored is ready and waiting for the millions of new species we have yet to find, hiding in the deepest oceans, on the highest mountains, and in the densest jungles of our living world. What else is out there, just waiting to be named?